In this video, we'll explore how to build and implement a custom Astro adapter for Server Islands. If you are using Django or other backend frameworks and want to integrate Astro Server Islands without using existing adapters, which typically run on the server or are part of service like Netlify or Vercel, this guide will show you how. In the previous video, I explained how to use Server Islands as Astro documentation recommends. It's a great solution to keep your site as static as possible. But what if you don't want to use adapters like Vercel or Netlify because they require deploying your app to their platforms? Or what if you don't want to run a separate server just to support the Node adapter when you already have a backend server running? In this video, we'll show you how to create a custom adapter that will allow Server Islands to work with any backend that can provide an API. I will be using the setup from the video where we used the Node adapter. Let me quickly explain what we already have. There is a search input component that collects data from an input to search country details. Then we have a results component, which is our server island. It makes requests to get country data, while the result skeleton component displays a beautiful loading skeleton. This is a simple example of a server island with a Node adapter. We won't change any of this functionality, it will work as is. The only thing we're changing is the adapter. Before we start with our adapter, let's examine how a server island looks after building. In my case, it's the index.html file inside the client folder. I will format the document for better visibility. We can see a script that fetches from server island results with parameters. This request goes to our node, which fetches country data, populates it in HTML and returns it. The script then replaces the loading skeleton with the HTML from the response. The p parameter in the fetch contains encrypted props that you can use to customize your component. To make this work with your backend, we'll modify the base URL in the fetch to call our endpoint instead. Your endpoint will return HTML with all the data you need, which will then replace the skeleton. This means you won't need to run your adapter on the server to handle requests. Our custom adapter will handle this transformation for you. Let's create a folder called adapter in the root of your project and create an Astro custom adapter.js file inside it. I have pasted the adapter's base structure to save time. As you can see, we have a create integration function that requires a base API URL parameter in user options. We also have hooks that help us track different stages of the build process. The Astro config done hooks passes values from the Astro config to our adapter and handles the initial setup. Inside getAdapter, we have our core adapter configuration, which we'll explore later. First, we need to add another hook called Astro build done. Inside this hook, we'll get the base API URL and replace it in the files that contains our server island fetch requests. The replace in files function looks like this. It replaces all instances of server islands with the base API URL at the beginning of each pass. That's almost it. Now we can use our Astro adapter inside the Astro config. My base API URL looks like this because I'm running my server locally. A specific endpoint doesn't matter, you just need to return HTML for your server island. If we try to build app now, the build will crash because we are missing the required files specified in getAdapter, server entry.js and preview entry point.js. These files are necessary to build the app and run local preview to check your changes. To solve this, we'll use the files from the Node adapter. Since they already contain the necessary logic, you will need to install the Node adapter package at the dev dependency. Let's update the file path to point to the files in Node modules. Now everything is ready, let's test our API in Postman. It works as expected. Let's build our app by running npm run build. After that, we'll preview the build and verify that our server islands are working. As you can see, it runs successfully. If we open the network tab and look at our server island request, we can see it's making a request to our endpoint. We have confirmed it's working as intended. For now, I always return one country, but you can get search parameters from the URL in your endpoint to make it work with different data. In the previous video about server islands, I showed you how to do that. We used the referer header, which contains the absolute or partial address from which a resource has been requested. However, we cannot see it inside our request headers, because the request is made to another origin. To fix that, we can add this meta tag inside our layout Astro. If we rebuild and preview it again, we should see the referer inside request headers. Perfect. Now we can see the referer with our search parameters. You are now free to pass any data through URL parameters. That's everything I wanted to show you in this video. In the next one, I will explain how to decode props in your backend to pass data securely and customize your server island with that data. If you're interested in seeing this content, please leave a comment. It will motivate me to create it as soon as possible. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.